How do you feel about the economic inflation? Has it impacted your finances negatively? Some of you who are making $15 an hour or more may say, not really. I've tightened down on my budget a little, but I'm not flat broke and I can still do a few non-necessary luxury things. But those of you making $7.25 to $10 an hour may be saying, it's been pretty rough. You may not be able to afford gas all the time. Some of your bills may be past due and you can't do the occasional out-to-eat trip anymore. I'm right there with you. As someone in the childcare industry, the inflation has struck me hard. Inflation has skyrocketed while the federal minimum wage has stayed the same. Some states are increasing their individually, but none are required to. This can, will, and is currently causing lots of problems for those who are having to work for minimum wage. Currently, the federal minimum wage is set at $7.25 an hour. This is roughly $15,080 a year. That's not including federal or state tax withholdings. With inflation now, this should be increased as soon as possible. Why? Because it would increase the living standard for millions. There would be a boost to economic growth and unemployment rates would decrease. In 2019, a Congressional Budget Office report projected a significant improvement in the standard of living for at least 17 million people, assuming a minimum hourly wage of $15 an hour by 2025. This included an estimated 1.3 million people being boosted above the poverty line. Currently, with the $7.25 minimum wage plus inflation of 8.6% from May 2021 to May 2022, we're seeing more people go below the poverty line who were considered well above before the inflation. As of January 2022, the Center on Poverty and Social Policy at Columbia University showed a 4.9% increase in poverty levels just from December 2021 to January 2022. Poverty levels were 12.1% at the end of 2021, and at the start of 2022 were already to 17%. The same report also showed 3.7 million more children in poverty due to the child tax income monthly credits being cut off. Parents are unable to provide stable homes for their children without government assistance. If the minimum wage was raised, these children would have parents who are able to work for a livable wage and keep a roof over their head. Another potential advantage of increasing the minimum wage is there would be a boost to economic growth. As consumer spending typically increases along with wages, we would see more people able to spend more money. This would give businesses a boost in sales because people would be able to afford to buy the products which have already inflated. Typically, we would see a minimum wage increase also increase inflation. However, currently we are seeing a significant rise in inflation without any minimum wage increases. This could potentially be causing businesses to lose out on sales and revenue. This is a vicious cycle in place now of not being able to pay workers for more, and then in turn, workers not being able to buy more to keep the business running. If the minimum wage was increased, we would see more workers able to support businesses by buying more products and the business seeing more sales and could help them afford to pay their workers more, as well as keep a steady revenue. Lastly, unemployment rates would decrease. Currently, we're seeing more people unable or unwilling to work for such low wages. Workers are resorting to freelance work due to not being able to afford to live. While we're seeing a significant decrease unemployment rate since 2020, we have to keep in mind the circumstances. When COVID hit in 2020, businesses were forced to shut down, causing them to lose out on business completely. A lot of companies had to lay off employees because they could not afford to pay them anymore. If the minimum wage was increased, we would see a significant drop in unemployment from the nearly 6 million it is now. This goes hand in hand with the higher living standards. People who would be more willing to work for a company rather than freelance because they would have the incentive of a higher living standards, a livable wage. Some of you may be thinking, those are all really good points, but what about the fact that increasing wages means increasing inflation? And as I've said before, inflation has already skyrocketed to the point of millions of people being brought below the poverty line. Significant increase has already happened, and now it's time to follow that with a federal minimum wage increase.